Hi, hasn't it? It's lovely to be here. I'm just trying to get the camera angle better for you on YouTube. So I'm live this evening on TikTok and YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't believe another month has gone. You've got me for about an hour. I'll be here till about 6:15 because I've got to get ready for another class that I'll be teaching. But I want to show you summary trees. But in order to do summary trees, I'll be doing a bit of a landscape with some summary poplar trees in using soft pastels. So it's really lovely for you to join me. Where are you watching me from in the world? It's about just nearly 5:20 in the evening here in the UK. And I'm thrilled that you're here with me. Now, ask me any questions, as long as it's art related, and I will try to respond. If I don't see your question, please ask again until I do, because that way I can't always see everything straight away, because I'm streaming from 2 different devices and I'll be creating a scene. Now, one thing I do want to bring up, which I find quite important, I'm using the art materials that I find are useful for me. So, because we're an art shop, we do get a lot of problems in that people will watch influencers and YouTubers who will say these are the only supplies you should use. What they actually mean is these are the supplies you should use if you want to paint or draw like me. There's a world of difference, and there are supplies downstairs in our shop and online that do exactly the same job. So I'm using, and I'll talk about what I'm using in a second, what I find works well for me and the students that I teach. So you might find something that works even better for you. So thank you for joining, and as I say, I'll be here for about an hour and we'll be doing a pastel landscape with some summary trees. The pastels I'm using are student quality. They are Mungyo soft pastels. I love using these. They're very affordable but lovely and vibrant. Obviously they're not going to be overly light fast because they're student quality. The half sticks are really good because you get far more pastel for your money, far more colours. I'm using the set of 48, but in the classroom we use 64 colours, and I think the set of 64 is only sort of like £22 for 64 half colours, and you get fluorescence and all sorts in that. It's really, really lovely. So I'm using those. I'll be using some other artist quality pastels as well at the same time. I won't try to use pastel pencils in this one. I'm going to try to do it all with the sticks, and the paper I am using is Murano paper by De La Rowney. I'm not a big fan of pastel mat. It's great if you want to do animals and finer detail, but for landscapes, and I do a lot of smudging with my hands, then I like this paper. It works well for me. It comes in a variety of colours, and the colour choice is really important. I'll be doing a video about it soon. But you know, when you're faced with lots of different colours, you can see the texture of the paper, hopefully, if I catch the light. And it has got a bit of a tooth to it. The way I suggest and advise colour choice for background paper, there are multiple options that you've got really. Let's say you're doing an animal or something. I would say choose the background colour that is the dominant colour of whatever animal you're doing. So if it's a chestnut horse, I'd use a sort of brown paper. Now the reason for that is the texture of the paper allows for pastel dust, if you like, to sit in it. So you can put layer upon layer upon layer, only so far, because the problem that you'll face is that once you've done so many layers, the top layer is sticking to the pastel dust. It's not getting into the dimples of your textured paper. So by reducing how many layers you need with your background paper, that makes the world of difference. It really does. The other option you can do is you can choose a colour that is, if you sort of squint at a reference image that you're working from, the colour that's the most obvious or the most prevalent is really good for a background colour of paper. Or you could go the opposite, so whatever is the complementary opposite. So let's say you're doing a lovely seascape with teals and turquoises, you might want a cadmium red or an orangey red background paper that pops through every time you leave little bits of the texture showing through. So that's quite important, your choice of background, and we discuss it a lot in our classes actually, because I'll have pre-selected them because most of the students have the supplies provided. So I'll ask them, do they agree with my paper choice, or would they have chosen a different colour? Because it does make a difference to how the colours and the objects work. If you have any questions, do just blurt them out, and I'll try and catch them, but hopefully I'll fill everything in and you won't need to ask that many questions. I'm just going to have a sip of tea. I have sketched out, it's going to be a bit of a road, a big sky, because I want some big poplar trees coming up here. So I've sketched out with this colour. Now, the frustrating thing about pastels, no matter the quality, even the expensive ones like the Sennelier or what have you, after time, some of them will have the labels with the colours on, but after a while, the labels go and then you don't know what colour it is. And when you're faced with something like this, well, none of them have got colour names. I can go roughly, oh, that's a bit like a cadmium yellow, and that's a bit like a crimson, and that's a bit like ultramarine. But we don't actually have names with them. And the same with the pastel pencils. The Stabilo Carbothello ones, which are really lovely, they're affordable, really nice. They have a number code. Great. Well, that doesn't help me at all, does it, when I'm trying to explain to my students? But Caran d'Ache, more expensive, but really light fast, they will have portrait pink. They also, what's really great about the Caran d'Ache one, can you see that sunshine there? It shows you the light fast rating, so that one is 3 stars. These are so much more vibrant and light fast. I'll show you another Caran d'Ache ones. I don't use very many of them because they're quite expensive to have for the students to use. But this one here, black. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 star light fast rating. So some of them do help tell you what they are, which I find works really, really well. Otherwise, you're kind of just on your own guessing the colours. This blue pencil we use a lot in our classes. You're very quiet. Good evening, Sharon on YouTube. How are you? So I'm live on YouTube and Instagram this evening. Last week I was live on Facebook and no, you're not Instagram, you're TikTok. I'm live tonight on YouTube and TikTok. Last week I was live on Instagram and Facebook. I don't know where I am. So I've done a bit of a sketch out. Now I'm going to do a bit of a sky. And for this I've got, I call it Fancy Pants. It's an artist quality. It's Rembrandt. Hello, Kathy. Thank you. Yeah, I will start the process now so you can see it in action. The artist quality pastels are much softer and the pigment load is much stronger. But some of the textures of the pastels vary depending on the colour. Some of the blues, greens and browns are very, very hard with the binder that's on them, and sometimes they're a bit scratchy or waxy, and sometimes they can sort of stain the paper. So what I want to do is I'm just going to put this over the sky. This is a ultramarine light by Rembrandt, so not as expensive and as soft as Sennelier, but it does the job. Now for you to have a better view, I'm working on a slope. That's not great for me because all the pastel dust runs down the paper, but you know, we'll go with it. It'll be fine. And I'll try not to shake the camera. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of preparing the surface a little bit. I don't want to lose the total colour of the background. Sorry if you're shaking a little bit online. And this is to prepare for when I put other colours on the sky, that the blue doesn't just weirdly stain. I haven't gone massively because I don't want to cover and reduce that grip too much. Today I'm celebrating as well because these are chalk pastels, soft pastels. We reached 10,000 followers on TikTok, which is absolutely wonderful. We've been on TikTok since about 2019, and it's taken me a long time to build up the followers. It still means we're not monetized because we have to have so many 100,000 views within a 30-day period. They get you every way, don't they? But I'm really happy that we've managed to reach 10,000. That's been a target of mine for a while, so that's good. So I've prepared that. Now I want to go for a sort of mid-sky blue. And thank you for joining me, by the way. It's really lovely that you are here. I am glad you are here. And it's lovely to have your company. So this is sort of like a mid blue. I realise that's not very helpful, but they haven't got names on, so I can't tell you any more than that. Just having a slurp of tea. Sorry, I'm really thirsty today. It's boiling hot here in the UK, and I know if you're from a hot country, you might think we're just a load of whingers, but it really is unbearable. And we're getting more and more of it, and I don't like it. I'm a ginger. We don't cope in the heat. So you can see by preparing it with that softer blue, it's giving this blue something to sort of get its teeth into and tone down and work really well. I've used masking tape on this so it doesn't fall off, basically. I don't often tape my pastel work, but it will give it a nice border in the end. So I do use my fingers a lot. Do you have to use your fingers? No, there are loads of things you can use instead. But I like the grip it gives. Hey JTS, hello Arrow Matt Boy and your local chippy. What am I making? I am doing a pastel landscape, soft pastel, chalk pastel, and it's going to have some big poplar trees in it within the next 45 minutes. I'm going to put a slightly lighter blue down here. I try to keep a different finger for different colours. I know that's a bit silly, but it does help massively. I'm going to change this though slightly. When I put some white on, maybe even a little bit lighter. So slightly cooler tone blues, more green based, the lower down to the horizon that we get. Just makes life a little bit easier, makes the sky feel bigger, and bigger clouds at the top, thinner, narrower clouds at the bottom. And that'll give your sky a lot more depth. Now, I normally have a fancy pants white to hand, but I don't seem to have it on hand today. Oh, that might be a dirty version of it, and let me just give that a clean. So the fancy pants, the artist quality white, is a lot stronger, really quite punchy, so I'm not going to need much of that, but I'm just going to put that on the edge of my blue. And that'll give me some nice tonal variation in my sky. I know this is a demonstration on trees, but I don't really want to just do a tree. I think that'll look a bit weird. So if we can have it within a landscape, you get a whole pastel demonstration in the next hour. All at the same time. Well, thank you for tagging along, Arrow Matt Boy. It's lovely to have you with us. So I'm doing gentle swirls. because I don't want to totally obliterate the colour. No gesso, it is just pastel paper, Murano pastel paper, and then I'm working straight onto the paper because it's chalk we're working with basically. Soft pastel is like a very expensive chalk that you'd use on a school chalkboard or on a pavement art, that kind of thing. So I do have some idea of what I'm doing. As I say, I did this demonstration on YouTube. No, I'm on YouTube today. I did it on Facebook and Instagram last week. So I thought I'd do the same one here because it just gives us a little bit chance, because the live streams on TikTok, they disappear straight away and then they're gone. But on YouTube it will stay forever, which is lovely. So how do you set it after? With a fixative spray. It can dull the whites a little bit. I don't find it dulls it that much, but what you can do is you can set it and then put your highlights back on top. Aaron, how long have you been doing this for? I've been teaching art for since 1997. And yes, that does make me quite old. I was very young. I was sort of like 17, 18 when I was teaching, when I started teaching art classes. So I'm not that ancient now. I feel it sometimes, but I'm not that old. And I've been working in pastels for quite a long time. And I teach about 30 to 40 art classes every month here from our little art shop in North Oxfordshire. I want a sort of purpley grey for the clouds. What colour is that? See, the trouble is they get quite filthy and it's hard to tell what colour things are. Well, I think that's... I have no idea. That could be grey. I'm going to put a little bit of grey on. Oh, it's purple. That's even better. Because if you're naughty like me and you don't clean your pastels and wipe them, you get whatever's underneath, whatever the dust is, gets picked up and you're left not knowing what you're using. I should clean it, I know. I just want a little bit of colour variation in the clouds, not too much, I don't want to make it stormy. And I'm not pressing down really hard, you can probably hear just a little bit of a swirly scratch. You can use putty erasers like you do with drawing. If you want to lift anything off and tweak anything. I know I've got some whopping great big trees I want to put in up here, so I'm not going to overly concern myself, and I don't want my best work to be on the masking tape. Something a bit like that. Does that look like an okay sky? If you're not following it and you do like what I'm doing, then you can give us a like and a follow and a subscribe and all of those kind of things. Thank you, Kathy. It means a lot to us because we're a very, very tiny art shop. We're only about 12 foot square. And I've been doing live demonstrations for a long time to try and help hopefully get monetized so we can raise a bit of an income so I can do more of them. So it really does help what we do. I don't know, I'm still quite new to live streaming on, oh thank you Sharon, live streaming on TikTok, so I don't know what I'm doing, but thank you very much for your support and helping me out, because I haven't got a clue. My brain is struggling to cope with everything in the digital world. I try my hardest, I really do. There we go. I don't want to... a little bit of blue there. Just don't want to over faff. I'll keep it like that, I think. Your local's Clippy, thank you. Well, is it Clippy or Chippy? Clippy. Hopefully the finished piece will look really nice. How long have I got? I've got 40 minutes. We can do this. So I'm going to do this. If you imagine this, there's a sort of road. I'm going to do that. I'll pop that in now so you can see. I'll pop it in purple. I know it's a bit weird. I'll pop it in purple and then put a little bit of grey on it, and maybe a little bit of white at the back. So I haven't spread or smudged anything yet, and I will now. So if you notice, I started from the lighter end and I'm coming downwards. So this is like a nice little sort of tarmac roadway. Make it a bit darker at the bottom. You can use those colour shapers. I don't know if you're familiar with those. They're like paintbrushes but made of silicone, and they're really good for blending and smudging. I'm old school and I just like having the control of using my fingers. As I say, I'm going to try and do it all with the soft pastels. So hopefully it looks like there's a little bit of light on the back of the road. So again, we're after depth. Same with the sky, bigger clouds at the top, narrower clouds at the bottom. It gives the sky depth. And having a lighter road at the back, darker at the bottom, it gives us a little bit of depth. If you struggle with sweaty hands, look, because it's really warm here, can you see how much that's lifted off? You can use that to your advantage. If you have excess and you've got clammy hands, you can always lift off any extra soft pastels. Now, the most difficult thing with pastels, and it doesn't matter, oh sorry YouTube, I'm making you shake there. No matter what brand you have, you can have every brand of soft pastel in the world and every colour from every brand in the world, and you still wouldn't have the right purple or green for what you need. I can almost guarantee it. It's so difficult. And you can see in this set that there aren't very many natural greens. That's a yellow, by the way. It's just filthy. There are very few natural greens. In fact, I think this is the most natural green. It's a bit dirty. There we go. Look at that colour there. It's okay. And the block in. So these aren't very soft, but equally they're not the same as sketch sticks. Sketch sticks tend to be much harder and you don't do as much blending with them. Right, so we're starting to build up. I am going to do some trees, I promise. How long am I here till about 6:15? Because I'm teaching a gouache class tonight. So I need to make sure we're all set up for that. Now I'm going to sort of play around with the colour a little bit here. I'm going to add a little bit of purple to that green right at the back, so it feels a bit bluer and cooler. Not on this bit though. And for this one I'm going to add a sort of ochre-y cream at the front, and that will bring it forward, because warmer colours advance, cooler colours recede, and that works in all colours of paint that you want to work in. There's going to be a bush thing here, I think. Can you see how that's warmed it up a little bit? I could go a little bit more now with a sort of burnt sienna red very sparingly at the front. Don't forget this is masking tape. If you're very sort of apprehensive, you could put your colours on your masking tape and brush it in, and that would give you a nice mix. So we're building up. I haven't blown any of the chalk dust off yet, the pastel dust. And that's because I'm working in a very small area. My laptop is right behind, and I think if I blow a bit too vigorously, it's going to go everywhere, and I don't want that. Now I want a dark green. This sort of forest green might work. And I just want to put a thin layer of trees and bushes right in the distance, but they do need to be a bit darker. So I'm just using little jerky motions, little jerky squiggles, just to give the illusion of maybe trees and bushes and things. I'm not going to smudge or blend that. I just want to keep that right in the background. If you want, you can use cotton buds as well. They work quite well, but they can be a little bit sneaky and lift off the colour. So just be aware of that. What colour is that? That's interesting. Oh, that's... Ooh. I could call that Shrek green. Different. My light is coming from the right in this picture. That's what I've decided anyway. What I'd like is if I could evolve a chisel-ended finger, that would be perfect. Just to dab, just to soften that a little bit. White. Some colours stain, some colours... Paula, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. I haven't even put my trees in or anything yet. But as always, I'm having a wonderful time chatting to you, and thank you for your company. It's really nice. I'm going to put a slightly darker bit of green, and this is an embankment. So what you can do, are you noticing what I'm doing here? Are you looking? If I angle my blend, can you see how that is now a sloping bank? And all I've done is shaded it in a different way. That I still find things like this mind-blowing even after all these years. I've been painting professionally. A little bit about me. I first sold my paintings when I was about 13, 14. I had my first one-man exhibition at the age of 16 and 17. By my early 20s, I was De La Rowney, the art company. I was their acrylic demonstrator for the UK when I was 21. So I've done quite a lot of stuff, and I've been teaching art constantly since I was 18. And I work across all the different media. So here we teach classes in drawing, watercolour pencil, gouache, acrylics, oils, soft pastels, art history, calligraphy. I teach all of these classes, and it's so fun and lovely. I have an absolutely lovely time doing it. Right, this is going to be a hedgerow, I said, didn't I, or something? Can't really remember. Give that a bit of a smudge. Not a fan of this green, but as I say, it's very difficult to find natural greens. So I'm using the corner quite heavily of that lighter green to give me some extra highlights, but I don't want it to merge in too much with the rest of the scene. I'm working a little bit loose and more impressionistically. And I'm going to have some poplar trees up here. I'm going to start with this darker one. Let's see. That's going to go right up to there. Whenever I see my hand on a camera like this, I'll show my age. If you're from the UK, you'll think of an artist called Tony Hart from the 80s and 90s. And if you're not from the UK, I also think of that scene in Mary Poppins where Bert is doing the street paving art that they jump into and then go on the merry-go-round. So I'm doing little short dabs on the edge so it feels a bit more like foliage. I need 3 trees, don't I, really? I don't want anything too big in the middle. Put one down there. Oh, normally I have birdsong on. I forgot. I've been chasing my tail this afternoon, so I've forgotten to do a lot of the stuff that I normally do. Some bushes and things in here as well. I don't want it to look too Christmas tree-like because they are poplars, which are very different. How are we doing so far? Are you still with me? Yes, good. So can you think of an impressionist that used soft pastels? They all dabbled with all sorts, but there's one impressionist who didn't start off life as an impressionist that used a lot of pastels in his later years. Especially with his paintings of ballerinas. Does that help? Now, if you noticed, I've called this several times a pastel painting. Because this is pigment, it's considered painting, whereas with charcoal and pencil, it's a sketch or it's drawing. So that's an interesting distinction. So the Impressionist painter, Degas. He used pastels quite a lot. Now, the interesting fact about Degas and Impressionism is that he wasn't actually very impressionist as a painter. He was very, very detailed as an artist. His work is absolutely stunning. But during the Franco-Prussian War in 1871, Degas fought in the artillery and he received damage to his eyesight and a slow degradation of vision meant he couldn't paint in the way that he previously enjoyed. And roughly at the same time, Impressionism was starting to come and happen in Paris, with the first Impressionist exhibition happening in 1874. And Degas, with his poorer vision, could work impressionistically. So really, it's a good job Impressionism happened, otherwise Degas may not have. We certainly wouldn't have continued. I'm putting that lighter green on at the moment, little short strokes. Now my light is going from the right, so I can go a little bit off the edge of this one. You can see all that pastel dust falling downwards. You're all very quiet today. You're just mesmerised. I'm here till 6:15, and then it'll be a quick mad dash to get the classroom ready for the class tonight. maybe we'll have some grassy bits. I'm trying not to use the pencils today, just so you can see what you can do with the sticks. The bigger you work, the better it is, because as you can tell, you can't get great detail from big chunky sticks. But if this picture was 3 times the size, each little dab would be a tiny leaf. So pastels you can go quite big with. It's harder to go more controlled and small unless you're working with pastel pencils, as I showed you at the beginning. Just enjoying the sound, the voice and the sounds. Ah, well, that's lovely, Kathy, thank you. Yes, if the light is from the right, will the trees and hedgerow throw shadow across the road? Yes, all of this will be casting shadow, which is one of my favourite things to do. I love shadow, and the reason why I've been talking about Impressionism is so much is because the Impressionists, many of them, loved blue shadow. Shadows tend to be sort of blue, greys and purples, so I'm going to use a blue shadow colour for this. This hedgerow won't really show much because it will be on the other side. Thank you, Punchy. So slowly building up. Oh, one thing I do want to do. Oh, what have I just dropped now? Oh, that's okay. I'm just going to make this a little road. There we go, we've got some white lines down the centre of that road. That little bit of white pastel I've got is really in less and less. If I want to enhance the highlights, look at that. Neat lemon yellow. Because it's interesting thinking about light and shadow. So Punchy, I'm glad you asked this question. Is that there isn't the visible sun in the picture. So the only way you can tell how sunny something is in 2 ways. By how lit up an object is and how strong the shadows are of that object. I ought to put a little bit of brown in this tree, I think. Poplar trees are very interesting because they've got very long, weird branches, and some of them will stick out. Growing up in the street that I lived in, there were some huge poplar trees that actually sprouted from somebody's beanstalk sticks at the bottom of their garden, and 2 of the trees were sort of, I don't know, 100 feet, 150 feet, and when it was stormy, my goodness, all of the neighbours closer to it than we were always keeping an eye on the window because it would sway massively. I think they ended up getting chopped down. Might put a little bit of... I'll do that later. I said brown on this, didn't I? I ought to put some... Now the brown is quite hard. I can feel... I don't use this end of this brown, and that's really quite hard to work with. So if you have a harder pastel... Hello, let me just say, Donna Vita Corleone, welcome. Soft pastels, this is soft pastels. I hope I've said your name right. I believe the etiquette is I'm supposed to say your full, whatever name you called yourself on here, but I do find that tricky sometimes. Because I can't read them from here, because you are here, I'm just about behind you, but also to the side of you, because I can't see my work. From Indonesia, oh, how lovely. Start 21, thank you so much. And we're glad you're here, so thank you for joining us. That's really lovely. All the way from Indonesia, wow. That's amazing. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow. down here. Nice and sunny on the sunny side of the street. This is all going to be much darker. I'm just going to give this a bit of a tap. Look at the pastel dust. Can you see that? I just don't want to blow, because if I blow, I'm going to get that really dark pigment up in my sky, and I don't want to do that because it'll end up having a sky full of birds if I'm not careful. So it's looking all right, but it's not looking overly solid yet. And the reason for that is we haven't got any shadow. And I'm going to be using a sort of deep blue, like a Prussian blue. Now, a little funny story. We call this Janice blue in class because we've got a lovely student who one week we were doing a seascape, and this blue actually stains above everything, and she inadvertently got it all over her hands and face, and it took quite a while for us to use all the wet wipes to get it off. She looked a bit like Smurfette for a while. So we affectionately call this Janice blue. But now if ever we're going to use blue, she's like, oh, not that blue. But it's like it's not quite a blue black, it's just a very deep blue that I want to put in on the left side and lower, because I can always, I'm going to leave enough time hopefully that I can put some more highlights back on if I need to. This is a half stick that's snapped in half, so it's basically a quarter stick I'm using. When you're working with trees as well, don't be frightened to be random, because we are so used to being uniform that when we're working in nature, you don't want that uniformity. Yes, trees have similar shapes according to the genre of tree, you know, oaks and sycamore and all of that, and poplars, but if it looks too perfect, it will instantly spoil it. I think you want a nice bit of randomness. So can you see how that darker blue has given just so much more depth to the scene so far? I'm a bit darker, and I know I haven't put any shadows in yet. I'm pacing myself. This is a bit stronger down here. Oh, there should be some down here. So tonight's class that I'll be teaching is a full moon over the sea. So it's lovely deep blues and whites, and we're doing that in gouache, which is lovely. So remember that this is a slope. So the shadow of this tree is going to come down the slope, across the grass, across the road, shadows are scary, by the way. But boy, do they make a picture look amazing. But follow the contours. I might go a little bit broader than that. Now, I think there might be a tree on the edge, so I'm going to do another shadow. By doing shadows of objects that don't exist, what happens there is that it makes us think outside the realms of the visible painting. But to just prove what I could do, I could add just some greens here, right on the edge. I'm just making sure that's not on the masking tape. Right, now, coming with my fingers. I'm just going to tap horizontally on the road. Now, if I want to put the white lines of the road in shadow, I'll probably use that pale blue pencil. Can you see how that looks shaded? They are very dry. Now, I know what you mean. Jackie, who works with me in the shop, who's absolutely amazing, she likes pastels mostly, but can't work with charcoal because of the noise that charcoal makes on the paper. So it will depend on the surface that you're working on as well, but they are dry. Oh, Sharon, thank you. They are dry, but I do understand the noise. Some people don't like how it feels either. So it's very tricky. I would always see if you know somebody that works with pastels, see if you can try them out beforehand, because you don't really want to buy stuff that you're not going to work with because you don't like how it sounds or feels. I'm not, maybe I'm hardened to it all because I've been working with all materials for such a long time. I don't really notice it particularly. There are times though with the pastel pencils, they don't make sense, I know. Normally I work with all sorts of mediums, so every month I do a different demonstration. This month is pastels. Next month, which will be September, and I can't believe it, I'm going to be doing watercolour and permanent pen, liner pen, to do a boat. So it'll be a boat scene in watercolour and permanent pen, and that will be the second Monday in September, around about the same time. Sometimes it's 5:30 when I get on. I try to keep it at about 5:15 if I can, just so it gives me a little bit longer with you all. So I've got, I'm just going to give that, let that tap a little bit down there. It's a very cool work, by the way. Oh, thank you very much. That's really nice of you. It's very kind. Hopefully you're learning things as well. It's not just about me doing pretty paintings. It's so you can learn how pastels work. Now, I might put some highlights or even some little bits of grass in front, because the shadows are great, but they've got to sit in the landscape. Maybe I'll switch to a green. They've got to sit in the landscape more, so you don't want them to just look like they're stuck on. They need to be integrated. So even with this green, because the blue is quite overpowering, with pastels, whatever colour is underneath becomes the dominant colour. And I'm going to do a video about that soon, I think. So if I wanted to mix a green, let's say, if I put the blue down first in pastels and then the yellow on top, I will get a dark green. If I put the yellow down first and then the blue on top, I would still get quite a lighter green because the yellow would be more dominant. But here, I'm very lightly putting the green over the blue just to give me a little bit of shadow of grass. And that will give me a nice bit of texture and change how the pastels look. And it won't, hopefully, look like they're stuck on. Go back with a bit more yellow. I do like working with pastels, and it's funny. I never used to teach pastel classes, and then I used to do an odd one or two every now and again. And a student of mine that's now in America, they said to me, you know, Barry, you really ought to do some pastel classes because I think they'd be really popular. And I was like, I don't know. Now we do a pastel class every Thursday, which is absolutely wonderful. I don't want to deaden the light too much. Hopefully, oh, Miriam Connolly just got the number 3 grifter badge. I don't know what that means, but thank you very much. That's really great. I don't know what I'm doing. But you can see you will need baby wipes when you work with soft pastels. Definitely need them. But you can build up lights on top of darks. You can put darks on top of lights. But you can see how that shadow really works well and comes into its own. But following the contours makes such a difference. What paper do I use, Miriam? I'm using the Murano paper by Dale Rowney. I tend to use a lot of different papers, to be honest. I like the Murano because I like the texture, but it comes in lots of different colours, and in the 12 by 9 pad there's a cooler, warm and a neutral. I tend to favour the neutral a lot, but I also work with with the paint on paper by Claire Fontaine. They do a lovely verdigris, they do a nice grey, and they do a lovely denim blue, so I use those as well. They're technically not pastel paper, there's not as much tooth to it, so I have to pick the paper depending on how many layers I think I'm going to use. I don't work with pastel matte. I find that too gritty, and that is just personal choice and personal taste. I don't like it, and I've taught a few classes with it, and my students still prefer using the Murano paper because of the grittiness, and it can make your pastels make more noise. Andrew, I'm late to the live, so you may have already shown this, but could you show how to fix a mistake with pastels? Well, yes, if there is an error with pastels, it is tricky the more layers you have put on. You can still use a putty eraser. So if I want to get rid of some of that shadow, I pinch my putty eraser in and I can dab off, make it a bit sticky again, go in and dab off, or I can just go back over the top. But obviously the earlier the layers, which is why it's good to have a good idea of what you're going to do within your artwork. So with some of our classes, what we do is pure French country. It is very very Provençal, isn't it? It's beautiful. We spend quite a bit of time drawing to make sure the drawing, we draw with pastel pencils because we can erase them, and if you use a pastel pencil a similar colour to the paper so you can see it, it's not going to stand out as much. At the beginning, this is sort of a blue-grey paper. I sketched with this pastel pencil, so it's just about visible, but I could smudge it in if I needed to. You had to give away the pastels because of the noise and feel. It is a sensory thing, and some people, that it is not for everyone. Charcoal seems to be worse. Charcoal seems to be much worse, but I try to not make a sound when I'm working. But there are some pastel pencils that sound like chickens are in the room. They'll get when people are drawing them. So just be aware. The really soft pastels though, like Sennelier, they won't make a sound. Oh, Fadinka, thank you very much. Outstanding. Hello from Colombia. Hello, Kimberly Mimberly. Thank you for joining us. I'm nearly finished now, though. I've started from a blank piece of paper, so you can see. So you can watch this back on YouTube, our YouTube channel, the Archery Online, all one word. We'll have this demonstration there forever, so you can watch it back as many times as you need to. On TikTok, sadly, it disappears as soon as I say goodbye to you all, which is very sad. But I am, as I say, celebrating on TikTok because this is our first time we've hit 10,000 followers, and I'm over the moon. So if you do like what we do, like and subscribe. I know I feel a bit weird saying all of that sort of stuff, but it really does help us. We're such a small business, a tiny little art shop, and we really appreciate all the support and help that we get, and it means that I can do far more live streams and things. What I want to do, Catherine, thank you very much. As I say, next month in September, I am going to be doing a watercolour scene of a boat. So it'll be a boat on a beach. I think I already know what boat because it'll be my favourite place. And I'll be using watercolour paint and permanent black liner pen. So you'll be able to see. Now, before I go, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give that a bit blow, and I'm going to fix it so you can see what paper I'm using. I'm using the Daler-Rowney Murano paper, so you can see just what happens. This isn't a very smelly fixative, and I'm going to put quite a bit on. Now, some people get really scared at this point. I'm putting a lot on just so you can see. So hairspray could work, but it could make your picture go yellow in time. Now, what I want you to do is watch as this dries, and you won't really lose a lot of the colour. And what that does is it just stops the pastel from falling off the paper. It kind of glues it. The fixative glues it to each other. It bonds it all. What you could do with fixative spray, there are lots of different brands. This is a Sea White of Brighton brand. I use the Creative House brand, or the Winsor & Newton, or the Daler-Rowney. They're all really good. And what you can do is you can work on an area. So say you've done a lovely blendy background and you don't want to ruin it, you can fix it when you finish the background and then work on the rest of the pastel painting, because you're not going to smudge or as much the background in that. So I could then, if I wanted more highlights on this, when this is dry, I could go back in with a little bit of white, because it does lose a little bit. Can you see? And I can put that in now. What I'll need to do is find a clean finger. Good luck with that, Barry. And this time I won't fix this little bit of white. So I can put that back on. And it just gives me a few extra highlights. That's still a little bit wet actually, the fixative. But hopefully you found this really, really useful. I'm going to have to give myself a scrub down before tonight's class. And so that's soft pastels in a nutshell, as well as creating trees. I've chosen poplars just because of the shape of the paper, but you can do this with any summery tree. I haven't used any pencils apart from sketching out. You can use a combination. I only used no pencils today just to show you what you can do with the sticks. Thank you, Punchy. But really, you can combine. What you'll find, though, with the pastel pencils is some are harder than others. So The Derwent pastel pencils are lovely, but they're hard. So if you've got a lot of layers of soft pastel, the Derwent pencils don't go on top very well. The Caran d'Ache pastel pencils are really soft and they will go on top. So you need to kind of change around a little bit and work out which pastel pencils work. You don't have to buy sets. Most art shops like us will sell them individually, so you can try out each one to see which one works best for you. So I've really enjoyed this evening. Thank you so much for your company. It's been really lovely to have you with me while I've been doing this painting, and I'll hopefully see you in September. I'm frantically trying to work out when it will be, but it will be the second Monday. I haven't got a diary with me here, so I can't tell. The second Monday in September at around 5:15 p.m. UK time. I'll be doing that. If I get chance between now and then, I might do another random demonstration and pop on and do a little bit of art. But definitely the second Monday in September is the next time I'll see you. So do like, follow, subscribe if you like what we do. It's been lovely to have your company. Take care and have a wonderful week. Bye everyone. Bye.